Hey, aspiring screenwriters, brilliant storytellers, and cinema aficionados. Get ready to unravel the genius of Quentin Tarantino in today's exploration of the electrifying opening scene from Inglourious Basterds. Now, we're not just breaking down a scene. We're dissecting a masterclass that every aspiring screenwriter needs in their arsenal. So grab your pens and notebooks or open an extra tab on that Word document as we look at 5 lessons we can interject into our own writings. And to add even more value to this video, there will also be exercises to help develop these skills to elevate your own script. So as we plunge into the world of Inglourious Basterds, be prepared for a roller coaster ride of tension, dialogue, and cinematic wizardry. Before we dive deep, know that there will be spoilers ahead, and also make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you'll never miss out on our cinematic adventures and powerful screenwriting tips. Now let's kick off that first lesson. Tension through dialogue. Now, Tarantino doesn't just write lines. He orchestrates a symphony of suspense. Now, this first scene isn't a conversation. It's a high-stakes poker game, and the chips are the unsaid words. The 2 main characters in this opening scene who are playing for their literal life and death are Colonel Hans Landa of the SS and a French farmer named Pierre Lapetite. Landa is looking for some missing Jewish farmers, and Lapetite is looking to keep them hidden. We begin with the opening slavos. It might seem innocent enough when Landa meets Lapetite's daughters and remarks,
Les rumeurs qui circulent dans les villages au sujet de votre frémissement. Monsieur Lapetite, vos filles sont toutes plus jolies les unes que les autres.
But we as the audience are reminded of what is at stake if Lapetite doesn't successfully fool Landa. A little further, we're reminded that Landa is in charge when he asks Lapetite to
Ces maisons à l'extérieur. Si cela ne les offense pas, auriez-vous l'obligeance de demander à vos charmantes dames de sortir?
Us as the audience again is wondering what Landa is up to and what can't be discussed in front of the ladies. It is not too much later when Landa asks Lapetite to switch languages again in order to mask his intentions from the people around him, including the people under the floorboards, which we, the audience, don't find out until later in the scene. We are still not near the end of the conversation. Landa goes into a description of how he sees the German people and how he sees the Jewish folks. There are feints and parries and responses of these two until we come to the point in the conversation. Colonel Landa says,
Conduct a thorough search before I can officially get your family's name off my list.
Now, as the audience, we think that Lapetite has gotten away with it. And then the dialogue continues.
And if there are any irregularities found, rest assured there will be. That is unless you have something to tell me that makes a conduct.
The trap has been sprung. Lapetite is caught. And if he doesn't get up to the Jewish family, then his own family will be doomed. This part of the script is simply amazing. Every word, every pause, it's a dance, a psychological chess match that keeps us on the edge of our seats. Aspiring screenwriters, this is where the magic happens. But hey, if you want to see the magic on paper, the script for Inglourious Basterds is just a click away in the description below. Trust me, it's worth every penny. Now, dialogue is the heartbeat of your script. It's not just what's said, but what's left unsaid. So oftentimes as beginning writers, we tend to be on the nose in terms of dialogue. In essence, we are hit over the head with what's going on in the text. Now, if it's a conflict between 2 characters about being the owner of a pet dog, we will have one of the 2 characters simply tell us in the conversation about why they are mad. Now, Tarantino, though, invites us to dive into the subtext, playing with conflicting motives, and makes every word count. So let's give you an example. Picture this, a scene of interrogation. Forget the straightaway exchanges, inject power plays, hidden agendas, and unresolved conflicts. Let the silence speak louder than words. Now that is seen, that'll leave your audience breathless. Writing example. So simply picture this, a scene of negotiation. Forget the straightforward exchanges. Instead, inject power plays, hidden agendas, and unresolved conflicts. Let the silence speak louder than the words. Now, that's a scene that'll leave your audience breathless. So here's your challenge. Write a dialogue-heavy scene dripping with tension. Experiment with pauses, nonverbal cues, and loaded questions. So as we wrap up this particular lesson, remember your dialogue is a powerhouse. Load it up, let it simmer, and watch the tension boil over. Now, on to the next lesson. Let's explore the second lesson from the Inglourious Basterds opening scene. the masterful control of pacing and timing. Tarantino's deliberate choices in how he unfolds this scene contribute significantly to the tension we feel. Tarantino takes almost 30 pages of script from the time that Colonel Landa arrives to when he accuses La Petite of hiding his Jewish neighbors. Yet it doesn't feel that long because Tarantino is really good at managing his pacing and timing. When Landa starts questioning La Petite, he starts off with something very interesting. Let's listen.
Well, I'm very familiar with you and your family. I have no way of knowing if you are familiar with who I am. Are you aware of my existence?
Now we, the audience, were not really expecting this type of question, were we? This throws us off from our normal expectation of Landa to come in and accuse the farmer of doing something wrong. Now Tarantino is shaping his narrative to allow us to discover who this colonel is and how dangerous he is as well. Now the next thing Landa does is pretty expected. He starts talking about the missing Jewish family. And Tarantino is back at the assumed pace that we have as an audience. Again, we feel that at the end of this section, Landa should accuse La Petite of some type of crime, especially when we see the Jewish family lying under the floorboards. However, this is what we get instead.
Well, I guess that should do it. However, before could I have another go?
The dialogue seems to meander when Landa talks to La Petite about what Landa's nickname is. As the audience, we just want Landa to leave. The detour causes our feelings of tension to rise. So when Landa finally makes La Petite choose between his family and his Jewish neighbors, we feel much like how La Petite feels, beaten. Watch how Tarantino allows the dialogue to breathe, creating moments of silence that amplify the suspense. The slow, deliberate pacing contributes to the unease, making the audience hang on to every word and gesture.
And them sitting around this table and talking. Underneath it, it's like the suspense is a rubber band. And I'm just stretching it and stretching it and stretching and see how far it can stretch. Now, normally in a situation when you do a movie, you try to make your scenes as compact as possible so there's not air and you don't wear out your welcome with the audience. But under this method, as long as that rubber band can stretch, the longer the scene can hold, the more suspenseful it is.
As screenwriters, understanding pacing is crucial. Recognize when to linger on a moment for maximum impact and when to quicken the pace to maintain the tension. Pacing is a powerful story writing tool that, when wielded skillfully, can enhance the emotional impact of your scenes. Writing exercise. Imagine a confrontation between two characters. Instead of a rapid exchange of blows, consider slowing down the action. Let the character size each other up, allow the tension to build, and then deliver a punch, literally or metaphorically, at just the right moments. Write a scene with varying paces. Experiment with moments of stillness as well as rapid exchanges. Pay attention to the emotional beats. How does the pacing contribute to the overall tone of the scene? What emotions are heightened by the timing of your storytelling? So in summary, pacing is a storytelling tool that can elevate your scenes. Be intentional in how you pace your narrative. Use timing to build and release tension strategically. Moving on to the third lesson, character introduction and establishment. The opening scene of Inglourious Basterds introduces Colonel Hans Landa in a way that immediately establishes him as a formidable and unpredictable antagonist. Let's delve into the art of impactful character introduction. From the moment Landa enters the scene, we get a sense of his personality, his methods, and his power. It's a masterclass in making a character memorable right from the start. So let's look at the opening scene. As we watch Colonel Landa get out of his jeep, you notice something significant, that the three soldiers that are with them are at attention, that they have deep respect for him, and that tells us that he is a serious officer, that he has a reputation. Now let's look at how he introduces himself to the French farmer, La Petite.
Est-ce la propriété de Perrier La Petite?
Je suis Perrier La Petite.
C'est un plaisir de vous rencontrer, Monsieur La Petite. Je suis le colonel SS Hans Landa.
Je suis un pauvre.
J'espérais que vous m'inviteriez à entrer chez vous.
So there's a couple things to take away from this particular introduction. Notice that Colonel Landa is speaking in French, not German. So he's speaking in the language of La Petite, which I think would be a little off-putting for La Petite. But it tells us as an audience that Landa is looking to put La Petite at ease. We also notice he is very cordial. He shakes his hand, But you do notice there is a little sense of his authority, though, because he requests, quote unquote, requests Le Petit to let him inside. But you know that's not a request. You know that's an order. So he is showing that he is willing to wield power, but do it in a way that is unexpected. So that's a very interesting character trait about Colonel Landa that we can learn from this particular introduction. As screenwriters, the opening scene is our canvas to paint a vivid picture of our characters. Consider their entrance, their first words, and how they interact with the world around them. What can you reveal about the personality, goals, or conflict in those initial moments? Writing example. Think about a key character in your script. How can you introduce them in a way that leaves a lasting impression? It could be through a unique action, a distinctive piece of dialogue, or a subtle visual detail that speaks volumes. Now, write a brief introduction for a character in your script. Focus on creating a memorable first impression. What details can you include that immediately communicate something essential about the character? Now let's delve into the fourth lesson from the Inglourious Basterds opening scene: visual storytelling and cinematic techniques. Tarantino's use of camera, framing, and shot composition add layers of meanings to the narrative. Notice the close-up of characters' faces, the framing that establishes certain details, and the overall visual language that heightens the tension. These are elements that go beyond the script, but contribute immensely to the storytelling. As screenwriters, it's crucial to collaborate with your cinematographer and director to bring your script to life visually. Consider how the camera can enhance the mood, emphasize character emotions, and create a more immersive experience for the audience. So the first clip I'd like to bring up for visual storytelling is showing the clip of the daughter at the beginning of the scene, where she moves the laundry from one side to the other, in some sense allowing us to frame the movie within the movie. Let's take a look at that scene. The second scene that I'd like to point to is just the way that Tarantino brings the camera down so we can see that the family is underneath the floorboards. He could have easily have said this in conversation, but it brings the audience into a much higher tension-filled mood when he moves the camera down to show us what is at stake.
Well, I guess that should do it.
Writing example. Think about a pivotal scene in your script. How can visual elements enhance the storytelling? It could be a unique camera angle that adds a layer of meaning, or a visual motif that runs through the scene in reinforcing a theme. Write a scene with specific visual instructions. Consider camera angles, framing, and any visual cues that can complement the dialogue and action. How can the visuals amplify the emotional impact of the scene? Visual storytelling is a collaborative effort that can elevate your script to cinematic heights. Work closely with your filmmaking team to ensure that the visuals align with the tone and narrative of your screenplay. Our fifth lesson takes us to the importance of setting and atmosphere. In the Inglourious Basterds opening scene, the seemingly peaceful farmhouse becomes a battleground of tension. Let's explore how setting and atmosphere can become powerful storytelling tools. Even in an ordinary setting, the atmosphere is thick with tension. Tarantino plays with our expectations, turning the mundane into something unsettling. As screenwriters, we can learn how to leverage our setting for maximum impact. The one important thing to note during the filming of these scenes, notice how tight the camera is. Notice how the farmhouse, which could be something that is really big and bright and is very spacious, look how confined it is. Look at how it is shot. Look at how the elements of the scene come together, where the two actors are very close in proximity to one another, so that you feel like this is a very cramped space. This is one great use of Tarantino's use of setting. Another great use of setting is just that farmhouse scene in the beginning, where you see that this farmhouse is in the middle of nowhere, that there's no one else around, that this family is sort of separated from society, from other people around them. So take a look at that as well too, where you, in some sense, this farmhouse gives you a very claustrophobic and also isolated feeling. Consider how your chosen setting contributes to the overall mood of the scene. Is there a contrast between the external appearance and the underlying tension? How can you use the environment to reflect the emotions of your characters? Writing example. Think about a key location in your script. How can you describe it in a way that sets the tone for the scene? It could be the lighting, the soundscape, or specific details that evoke a particular atmosphere. So write a scene where the setting plays a crucial role. Experiment with different locations and explore how each setting influences the mood and tension of the scene. How does the atmosphere change when the characters are in different environments? Settings and atmosphere are integral to storytelling. Use them strategically to enhance the emotional impact of your scenes and transport your audience into the world of your screenplay. As we entangle the threads of cinematic brilliance, keep in mind that creating an unforgettable screenplay involves weaving together the intricate dance of dialogue, pacing, character, visuals, and atmosphere. Inglourious Basterds has generously opened the door to a treasure trove of invaluable lessons. Now I'm turning the spotlight to you. Which cinematic gems do you want us to unearth for our next screenwriting expedition? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't just stop there. Hit that like button, spread the word by sharing, and of course subscribe for a front row seat to more riveting screenplay insights. Until our pens meet again, happy screenwriting, fellow storytellers, and remember, as always, live well and write well.